The conference room exploded with applause as Marcus stood under the spotlight, grinning like he'd just won the lottery. "Let's give it up for Marcus Webb, the brilliant mind behind our $4.2 million breakthrough," our CEO announced, his voice booming through the speakers. Behind Marcus, my slides flashed across the screen. My data, my designs, my 14 months of late nights and cold coffee. He raised his hand in that fake humble gesture, soaking it all in. "This project was my vision from day one," he said smoothly. "My amazing team helped execute it beautifully." I sat frozen in the third row, gripping the armrest so hard my knuckles turned white. No mention of my name, not even a glance in my direction. "Where are you watching from today? Drop your location in the comments below and hit that like and subscribe button if you've ever had someone steal your hard work." You'll definitely want to stick around for what happened next, because when I finally made my move, Marcus Webb learned that some victories come with receipts. My name is Maya Bennett, and I'm a senior analyst at Tech Vision Solutions, or at least that was my title before everything changed. The project Marcus just claimed credit for started 18 months ago in my tiny apartment. Sketching algorithms on notebook paper at 2 a.m., I'd pitched the sustainability tracking platform to our leadership team myself. They loved it. Marcus, my director, volunteered to mentor me through the process. I thought he was being supportive. I was so stupid. For the first 6 months, he barely checked in. Maybe one email a week asking for updates. I designed every interface, wrote every line of code, analyzed every data point. My fingerprints were all over that project. Then something changed. Around month 8, when the client started showing serious interest, Marcus suddenly became very involved. He wanted to review everything, polish the presentation, and align the messaging with executive expectations. That's corporate speak for "I'm taking over now." The shift happened so gradually I almost didn't notice. First, he started attending my client meetings. "Just to observe and provide backup support," he said. Then he began speaking up during presentations, adding his thoughts, rephrasing my explanations. The clients started directing questions to him instead of me. He never corrected them. One Tuesday afternoon, I opened our shared project folder and noticed something strange. The main documentation file had been updated overnight. I clicked through the revision history and felt my stomach drop. My name had been removed from the author field. Every single reference to Maya Bennett, lead analyst, had been changed to Marcus Webb, project director with support from the analytics team. The analytics team. Like I was just some nameless worker bee. I sat there staring at my screen, trying to convince myself it was a mistake. Maybe he'd accidentally deleted my name while editing. But deep down, I knew better. I should have confronted him immediately. Instead, I told myself to be professional, to give him the benefit of the doubt. That same week, Marcus scheduled a meeting with our VP of operations. "Come prepared to present our progress," he'd written in the calendar invite. Our progress. I spent 2 days perfecting my presentation. Charts, forecasts, implementation timelines, everything the VP would want to see. But when we walked into that conference room, Marcus had his own deck ready. My designs were in there, but the narrative had completely changed. Every slide started with my approach, or I developed, or my strategy involved. He presented for 45 minutes straight. I sat there like a prop, nodding when he glanced my way. The VP was impressed. "Marcus, this is exceptional work," he said, shaking his hand. "Tech Vision is lucky to have visionaries like you." Marcus smiled modestly. "I have a great support team helping me execute these ideas." Support team, not a partner, not a colleague, support. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying that meeting in my head, hearing Marcus claim my work over and over. Around midnight, I got out of bed and opened my laptop. If he was going to steal my project, I needed proof it was mine. I started organizing everything. Email chains showing my initial pitch. Calendar invitations proving I'd scheduled the first client meetings. Source code commits with my username and timestamps. Design mock-ups saved with metadata showing creation dates and author information. Slack messages where I'd explained technical concepts to Marcus because he didn't understand the platform architecture. Every piece of evidence went into a folder on my external hard drive. I labeled it Project Genesis Original Files. Something about seeing it all compiled made me feel slightly less powerless. Marcus could change the official narrative, but he couldn't change reality. The truth existed somewhere, even if nobody was looking at it yet. The next few months were torture. Marcus continued rewriting history, one document at a time. He presented his project to 3 more executives. Each time, I sat in those meetings watching him perform. He'd memorized my technical details well enough to sound convincing. When someone asked a question he couldn't answer, he'd glance at me expectantly. "Maya, why don't you explain the data architecture?" he'd say, like he was generously including me. I'd answer clearly and thoroughly because that's what professionals do. But inside, I was screaming. The worst part was watching other people believe him. Colleagues started congratulating Marcus in the hallways. "Heard about your brilliant platform design," they'd say. He'd thank them graciously, never once mentioning that I existed. I became invisible in my own success story, just another face in Marcus Webb's amazing support team that he kept thanking during his victory lap. Then came the announcement that changed everything. Our CEO called an all-hands meeting on a Friday afternoon. The entire company packed into the main auditorium. "We have some exciting news to share," she began. My stomach twisted before she even finished her sentence. "Thanks to an innovative sustainability platform that's saving our biggest client over $4 million annually, TechVision has secured 3 major new contracts." The screen behind her lit up with financial projections. My platform, my client relationships. "The architect of this success is Marcus Webb," the CEO continued. "His vision and leadership have positioned us as industry leaders in sustainable technology solutions." People started clapping. Marcus walked onto the stage, looking humble and proud simultaneously. The CEO shook his hand and held up a plaque. "It's my pleasure to announce Marcus's promotion to Senior Director of Innovation." More applause, louder this time. I sat there clapping mechanically, my face frozen in a polite smile. Inside, something cracked. I left before the reception started. I couldn't watch people congratulate him over champagne and fancy appetizers. In the bathroom, I stared at my reflection under the harsh fluorescent lights. My eyes were red, my jaw clenched so tight it ached. "Pull yourself together," I whispered. Behind me, the door opened. Kara from the design team walked in and stopped when she saw my face. "He used your work, didn't he?" she asked quietly. I met her eyes in the mirror. I didn't need to answer. She'd worked with me during the early design phases. She knew exactly who'd created what. "I'm sorry, Maya," she said. "That's not right." Those 3 words broke something in me. Not right. As if fairness mattered in corporate politics. As if justice existed outside of fairy tales. I thanked her and left quickly before the tears could start. That night, I made a decision. Marcus thought he'd won. He had no idea the game was just beginning. Monday morning, I showed up to work early and went straight to Marcus's new corner office. He was unpacking boxes, hanging up his executive awards. "Maya," he said warmly, like we were old friends. "Come in. What can I do for you?" I forced a smile. "Just wanted to congratulate you on the promotion. Well deserved." His expression shifted to something almost sympathetic. "Look, I know attribution gets complicated on big projects," he said, "but your contributions didn't go unnoticed. When I build my new team, there might be opportunities for you." Opportunities, like he was doing me a favor. "That would be great," I said, keeping my voice steady. "I've learned so much working under your leadership." The lie tasted bitter, but I needed him to be comfortable, confident, unsuspecting. He relaxed visibly. "That's the attitude I like to see." "Team players go far in this company." I smiled wider. "Absolutely, I'm all about the team." Walking back to my desk, I felt strangely calm. Let him think I'd accepted my place. Let him believe I was just another ambitious employee who'd learned to play the game. He had no idea what was coming. That week, I started documenting everything with obsessive precision. Every email Marcus sent about his project got forwarded to my personal account with a timestamp. Every meeting where he claimed credit got documented in a private journal with dates, attendees, and exact quotes. I recorded conversations where I explained technical concepts he clearly didn't understand. I saved chat logs showing me solving problems he took credit for. Most importantly, I contacted 3 people who'd worked with me during the project's early stages. Kara from design, James from engineering, and Nina, a junior analyst who'd helped with data collection. "If anyone ever asks about the platform's development, would you tell the truth about who created what?" I asked each of them separately. They all agreed immediately. Turned out I wasn't the only one disturbed by Marcus's theft. "He's done this before," James told me quietly over coffee. 3 years ago, he took credit for Kevin's client retention algorithm. Kevin left the company 6 months later. That information changed everything. This wasn't an isolated incident. This was a pattern. 2 weeks after Marcus's promotion, our company hosted a major investor presentation. Marcus was scheduled to present the sustainability platform as our flagship innovation. I wasn't invited to attend, but the afternoon before the presentation, Marcus's assistant called me. "Marcus needs you at the investor meeting tomorrow," she said. "He wants you available for technical questions." Of course he did. He'd memorized my talking points well enough for internal audiences, but sophisticated investors would ask deeper questions. Questions he couldn't answer. I showed up 15 minutes early, wearing my best professional outfit. The conference room was filled with venture capital partners and potential investors. Marcus was already there, chatting confidently with a group of executives. When he saw me, he waved me over. "Maya will be supporting me during the technical portion," he announced to the room. "She's been invaluable in executing this project." Executing, not creating, not designing. Executing his vision. I smiled politely and took my seat in the back row, exactly where he wanted me, visible enough to answer questions, invisible enough not to matter. The presentation went exactly as expected. Marcus spoke eloquently about his innovative approach and his strategic vision. The investors nodded along, impressed by his confidence and polish. Then someone asked about the algorithm's data processing architecture. Marcus hesitated for just a fraction of a second before turning to me. "Maya, why don't you walk them through the technical specifications?" I stood up and explained clearly, precisely, the way only someone who'd actually built the system could. The architecture's logic, the efficiency calculations, the scalability design. When I finished, one of the investors looked thoughtful. "That's sophisticated work," he said. "How long have you been developing this platform?" Before I could answer, Marcus jumped in. "Maya joined the project midway to help with implementation," he said smoothly. "The foundational design was completed before she came on board." The lie was so casual, so practiced. I felt my face flush, but I kept my expression neutral. "Actually," I said carefully, "I pitched the original concept 18 months ago. The design documentation has my authorship timestamps throughout." The room went very quiet. Marcus's smile tightened. The investor looked between us, confused. "I see," he said slowly. Something shifted in that moment. That one statement planted a seed of doubt in the right mind. I saw it in the investor's expression, in the way he started taking notes. Marcus noticed too. His jaw clenched almost imperceptibly. After the presentation, he pulled me aside. "We need to talk about messaging consistency," he said, voice low and controlled. I looked at him steadily. "I only stated facts." The documentation speaks for itself. He stared at me for a long moment, and I saw recognition dawn. I wasn't going to stay quiet anymore. "Be careful, Maya," he said finally. "Politics can get messy." I smiled. "I'm just focused on accuracy, Marcus. Nothing political about truth." I walked away before he could respond, my heart pounding but my steps steady. The war had officially begun. That evening, I met with an intellectual property attorney. Her office was small but professional, filled with law books and framed certificates. "Tell me about your situation," she said, pen ready. I explained everything. The project's development, Marcus's gradual takeover, the credit theft, his promotion. She listened without interrupting, taking occasional notes. "Do you have documentation proving your authorship?" she asked when I finished. I pulled out my tablet and showed her everything. Timestamps on files, email chains, code commits, design mock-ups with metadata. She studied the evidence carefully, occasionally zooming in on specific details. After 20 minutes, she looked up. "This is substantial proof of original creation," she said. "Have you considered filing a provisional patent under your name?" I blinked. "A patent for internal company work?" She nodded. "If the platform has commercial applications beyond your current client, you might have grounds for partial intellectual property rights. Even if the company owns the final product, establishing yourself as the inventor creates a legal record that can't be altered." It cost me $2,000 I didn't really have. But that night, we filed the paperwork. My name, my invention, my permanent record with the United States Patent and Trademark Office. Marcus could delete me from company documents. He couldn't delete me from federal records. 3 days later, I requested a meeting with Patricia, our CEO's chief of staff. Patricia had a reputation for being fair-minded and detail-oriented. More importantly, she had direct access to the board of directors. "Thanks for seeing me," I said when I arrived at her office. I wanted to discuss some concerns about project attribution. Her expression remained neutral. What kind of concerns? I kept my explanation factual and unemotional. Specific instances where my authorship had been removed from documents, meetings where Marcus had claimed work I'd done, the investor presentation where he'd publicly misrepresented my role. Do you have evidence of your involvement? Patricia asked. I handed her a thumb drive. Complete documentation, original files with timestamps, email chains, source code commits, witness statements from colleagues who worked with me during development. She took the drive and plugged it into her computer. For 15 minutes, she clicked through files silently while I sat there trying to keep my breathing steady. Finally, she looked up. This is concerning, she said carefully. I'll need to discuss this with our compliance team. Would you be willing to participate in a formal review if one is initiated? My heart raced. Absolutely. I just want accurate attribution. She nodded slowly. I'll be in touch. In the meantime, keep this conversation confidential. If there's an investigation, we can't have anyone tampering with evidence. I left her office feeling like I'd just lit a very slow-burning fuse. For 2 weeks, nothing happened. No meetings, no emails, just normal work routines and careful politeness. Marcus seemed relaxed, probably convinced that his warning had worked and I'd fallen back in line. Then on a Tuesday morning, I received a calendar invitation from Human Resources. Attribution Review Meeting Confidential. The meeting was scheduled for the following Monday. Attendees listed were me, 2 HR representatives, Patricia, and someone from our legal department. No Marcus. I sat at my desk staring at that invitation, my hands shaking slightly. This was it. The moment where either justice happened or my career ended. That weekend, I prepared like I was defending a thesis, organized my evidence into clear categories, created a timeline of events with supporting documentation. Practiced explaining technical details in simple terms. Monday morning arrived cold and gray. I wore my most professional outfit and arrived at the conference room 10 minutes early. The HR team was already there, along with Patricia and a serious-looking man I recognized as our chief legal counsel. Thank you for coming, Maya, the senior HR representative said. We're here to review questions about the sustainability platform's development and authorship. I nodded. I appreciate the opportunity to clarify the record. They asked detailed questions. When did I start the project? Who approved my initial proposal? What was my specific role versus Marcus's involvement? For each question, I provided clear answers supported by documentation. Email chains showing my original pitch. Calendar invitations proving I'd initiated client relationships. Technical specifications that only the actual creator could have written. At one point, the legal counsel asked about the patent filing. Why did you file intellectual property paperwork outside of company channels? I met his gaze steadily. Because I created the core algorithm, and I wanted legal documentation of that fact that couldn't be altered or deleted. The room went very quiet. Patricia glanced at the legal counsel, and something unspoken passed between them. After 90 minutes, the HR representative closed her notebook. Thank you, Maya. This has been very informative. We'll need some time to review everything and may have follow-up questions. I stood to leave then. Paused at the door. One more thing, I said. A colleague mentioned that Marcus might have done something similar on a previous project. You might want to look into Kevin's client retention algorithm from 3 years ago. I left before they could respond, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. The bomb was dropped. Now I just had to wait for the explosion. The explosion came faster than I expected. 2 days after my meeting, a company-wide email went out. Marcus Webb will be taking a temporary leave of absence for personal reasons effective immediately. All pending projects will be reassigned. The office erupted in whispers. Personal reasons was corporate code for something bad happened. People speculated wildly. Health crisis, family emergency, scandal. I kept my head down and focused on my work, but I felt dozens of curious glances throughout the day. By afternoon, 3 different colleagues had stopped by my desk with carefully casual questions. Did you have a meeting with HR last week? Did you know Marcus was leaving? Is everything okay with the platform project? I gave neutral answers to everything. Just a routine review. I was surprised to hear about Marcus. The project is fine. But inside, I was watching dominoes fall. That evening, Kara from Design sent me a private message. HR called me in today. asked about the platform's development timeline and who did what work. I told them the truth. James messaged an hour later with the same story. So did Nina. The investigation was expanding. Over the next week, the Whisper network activated in full force. People who'd never spoken to me before suddenly wanted to chat by the coffee machine or in the elevator. Always wondered how Marcus delivered so many successful projects without seeming to do much actual work, someone from accounting mentioned. His presentations were always suspiciously detailed for someone who supposedly delegated everything, another person added. I listened but didn't contribute. Let them talk. Let the doubts spread naturally. Meanwhile, I noticed something interesting. Old colleagues of Kevin, the analyst who'd left 3 years ago, started connecting on LinkedIn. Some sent direct messages. Heard what's happening with Marcus. Good for you for standing up. I wish Kevin had. It turned out Kevin's story was almost identical to mine. Brilliant project, gradual credit theft, eventual resignation when nothing changed. But Kevin had left quietly, taking a settlement and a non-disclosure agreement. Marcus had faced no consequences then. This time would be different. I was making sure of that. 10 days after Marcus's leave of absence, a reporter from Tech Business Weekly contacted me via LinkedIn. Ms. Bennett, I'm writing a story about workplace credit attribution in the tech industry. Multiple sources have mentioned a situation at Tech Vision Solutions involving the sustainability platform. Would you be willing to speak in the background? My first instinct was to ignore it. Getting the media involved could backfire spectacularly. But then I thought about Kevin, about future employees who'd work under people like Marcus, about staying silent and letting thieves win. I called Patricia first. A reporter contacted me about the situation. Should I speak with them? She was quiet for a moment. The company can't tell you what to do on your personal time, but be careful. Whatever you say could become public record. That wasn't a no. I met the reporter at a coffee shop across town. She was professional and thorough, taking detailed notes while I explained the situation factually. Do you have documentation? She asked. I showed her selected pieces. Enough to prove my case without revealing company. Confidentials. This is a compelling story, she said. I'll need to verify everything independently before publishing. The article dropped 3 weeks later. Innovation or appropriation? Questions surface about executive credit claims at Tech Vision Solutions. It was balanced and well-researched. The reporter had interviewed former employees, reviewed my patent filing, and gotten statements from unnamed sources confirming the timeline. Marcus's name appeared throughout, always carefully hedged with phrases like allegedly claimed credit and questions have emerged about. My name was there too, alongside descriptions of my documentation and patent filing. The tech industry forums exploded. LinkedIn discussions, Twitter threads, Reddit deep dives into corporate credit theft. Suddenly, everyone had an opinion about intellectual property ethics and workplace attribution. TechVision's stock price dipped slightly. Our PR team issued a carefully worded statement about taking all allegations seriously and conducting a thorough internal review. I avoided social media and focused on work, but I felt the shift. People looked at me differently now, with respect, with recognition, with something that felt like vindication. The board of directors called an emergency meeting. I wasn't invited, but Patricia gave me a quiet update afterward. They reviewed everything, she said. Your documentation. The patent, the reporter's findings, Marcus's history with Kevin's project. She paused. Marcus Webb's employment has been terminated effective immediately. The company is also implementing new attribution policies to prevent this situation from happening again. I sat very still, processing those words. Terminated. Gone. After months of watching him steal my work, after all the documentation and careful strategy, it was finally over. What happens to the platform? I asked. Patricia smiled. The official record is being corrected. Your name is being added to all project documentation as the lead creator. There will be a formal announcement. That night, I sat in my apartment staring at my wall, feeling nothing and everything simultaneously. Not triumph, not joy, just exhausted relief. Like I'd been holding my breath for months and could finally exhale. Marcus Webb was gone. The truth was on record. I could finally breathe. The announcement came 2 days later in an all-hands meeting. Our CEO stood at the same podium where she'd announced Marcus's promotion months earlier. We recently completed a thorough review of attribution practices, she began. During this review, we discovered that proper credit was not given to the primary creator of our sustainability platform. She paused, and I felt every eye in that room turn toward me. Maya Bennett designed, developed, and implemented the platform that has been central to our recent success. Her work saved our major client over $4 million and secured multiple new contracts. We owe her recognition, apology, and gratitude. The room erupted in applause. Real applause this time, not the polite corporate clapping that had followed Marcus's announcement. People stood up. Colleagues I barely knew were cheering. I sat there, overwhelmed, trying not to cry. The CEO continued. Effective immediately, Maya is promoted to Director of Platform Innovation. We're also implementing new attribution protocols to ensure proper credit is always given to project creators. More applause. Kara caught my eye from across the room and mouthed, "Yes." James gave me a thumbs up. Nina was actually crying. After the meeting, people lined up to congratulate me, shake my hand, apologize for not speaking up sooner. I accepted it graciously, professionally. But inside, I was thinking about the applause that had burned months ago, about sitting in that audience watching a thief get rewarded. This moment erased none of that pain, but it proved that patience and proof could eventually overcome power and politics. My first week as Director of Platform Innovation was surreal. I moved into an actual office with windows and a door that closed. My title was updated in the company directory. People scheduled meetings wanting my input on projects. Everything Marcus had gotten by theft, I now had legitimately. The promotion wasn't what mattered most. What mattered was the email I received from Patricia 3 weeks later. The board has approved new attribution policies based on your situation. All projects will require documented creator acknowledgement. Regular audits will verify proper credit. Any violations will result in immediate termination. You're listed as a consultant on policy development. My experience was changing company culture. Future employees wouldn't face what I'd faced. That felt bigger than any promotion. I also heard through the grapevine what happened to Marcus. No company would hire him after the article and termination. His LinkedIn profile went quiet. His professional reputation was destroyed. I felt no satisfaction in his downfall, just a quiet certainty that consequences had finally caught up with actions. Meanwhile, Kevin reached out via email. "Thank you for finishing what I couldn't start. You gave voice to everyone who's ever been erased by someone more powerful." That message meant more than any corporate recognition. 6 months later, I was invited to speak at a tech industry conference about intellectual property ethics. Standing backstage before my presentation, I thought about how far I'd come. From invisible support team member to recognized director. From silent victim to industry speaker. The moderator introduced me. Maya Bennett revolutionized not just sustainable technology platforms, but workplace attribution practices. Please welcome her to discuss creating credit, ethics in innovation. I walked onto that stage and looked out at hundreds of faces, tech professionals, students, executives, people who'd maybe faced similar situations or would face them someday. 18 months ago, I watched someone else get promoted for my work, I began. Today, I want to talk about what I did next and why documentation matters more than drama. For 40 minutes, I told my story. Not with anger or bitterness, but as a case study in strategic truth-telling. I explained how I'd gathered evidence, how I'd chosen the right moment to present it, how patience and proof had eventually overcome power. The audience was silent, absorbed. When I finished, the applause was thunderous. During the Q&A, a young woman raised her hand. "What would you say to someone currently facing credit theft?" I thought carefully before answering. "Document everything. Find allies quietly. Build an unshakable case. Then choose your moment strategically. Truth doesn't need drama. It just needs patience and proof." She nodded, and I saw recognition in her eyes. She was living my story right now. That's when I realized my experience had become bigger than just me. It was a roadmap for others fighting similar battles, and that thought filled me with a purpose I'd never expected. A year after Marcus's termination, TechVision's attribution policies became industry news. Business magazines wrote about our revolutionary transparency practices. Other companies started implementing similar systems. I was invited to consult with 3 major tech firms about developing ethical attribution frameworks. My platform, the one Marcus had tried to steal, won multiple industry awards. Each time I accepted recognition, I mentioned the team members who'd supported me. Kara, James, Nina. the people who told the truth when it mattered. The platform itself continued evolving. We expanded it to serve 12 major clients, generating over $20 million in revenue. Every piece of documentation clearly credited me as the original creator, with detailed acknowledgement of everyone who contributed. That transparency became our competitive advantage. Clients trusted us because we valued honesty. One afternoon, I received a LinkedIn message from Marcus. Just 2 sentences. "I understand now what I did was wrong. I'm sorry." I stared at that message for a long time. Part of me wanted to ignore it. Part of me wanted to write back something cutting about how apologies don't undo damage. Instead, I wrote, "I accept your apology. I hope you've learned that success built on lies eventually collapses. Real achievement requires truth." He never responded, but I felt closure anyway. Not because he'd apologized, but because I'd already moved past him. He was a painful chapter in my story, not the ending. Today, my office wall displays 3 items. My Director of Platform Innovation nameplate, the patent certificate with my name in bold print, and a framed quote I added myself: "Truth doesn't need drama, it just needs patience and proof." Sometimes late at night, when I'm working on new projects, I think about that conference room where Marcus stole my applause. I remember the rage and helplessness, the feeling of being invisible in my own success. Those memories don't hurt anymore. They remind me why I fought back strategically instead of emotionally, why I chose evidence over accusations, why I waited for the right moment instead of acting impulsively. Marcus Webb lost everything trying to steal what wasn't his career, his reputation, his future in this industry. I built mine by proving what was mine all along, not through drama or confrontation, but through meticulous documentation and strategic timing. They say living well is the best revenge. I disagree. Living truthfully is the best revenge, because lies eventually unravel, but truth endures. And when the applause finally comes, when recognition is real and earned and documented, it sounds completely different. It sounds like vindication, like justice, like proof that patience and evidence will always outlast power and theft. That's the sound I hear now, and it was worth every silent moment, every documented file, every strategic choice, because real victory isn't loud, it's permanent.